Hi, I'm Terry Murphy, Senior Editor for Realty Times Women in Business, Women in Real Estate, and In the Men's Room with Murph. And what happens when you get an amazing man in the men's room who's also traveled the world? Talk about real estate. His name is Ramsey Qubein. He's uh, he's just an amazing man, and he's created this incredible career where he travels and writes and helps people with credit cards. He's a freelance journalist, covers airlines and hotels, cruises, loyalty. By the way, I know nothing about those loyalty agreements, Ramsey. And as a traveler, over 400,000 miles. How did you start this, Ramsey?
Well, thanks, Terry, for having me. First of all, I'm excited to join you here. I am very fortunate. I started out today. I'm a freelance journalist. I travel about 95% of the year, 400,000 miles a year, which is great fun. But my work started writing about airports for a travel media company, and it kind of grew to starting to write about hotels, and then the cruise lines, and then now I do a lot of executive interviews and loyalty programs. Things just kind of snowball, and through the experience of meeting new people and people helping you understand what people want to read and what people want to know has just helped me in my career to grow, and I hope that I'm providing useful information for readers. So it seems to be working so far. I hope it continues.
Well, excuse me, Forbes, Condé Nast, Bloomberg. I mean, I think you've kind of hit the big boys, but good for you. And so I know you specialize in some of the awards programs, but I have a couple of questions. How long have you been doing this?
I've been writing for about 20 years. So, and the
And
landscape just continues to keep changing. So, I feel like
you think,
plenty of work.
well, and I can't believe it's 20 years because I met him years ago and he hasn't changed at all, which is not fair. From so the countries you visited, what surprised you the most and why? I mean, because now you just were in Shanghai. It's like witness protection with you. I mean, I never know where you're going to be.
Well, I'm very fortunate. I've traveled to 178 United Nations countries. There's 194 in total. And it just becomes more difficult every day to visit some of these remaining countries that I have. But what surprises me most is that maybe it's something that shouldn't surprise us, is that people are pretty much just the same everywhere. They just speak a different language. They may wear different clothes or eat different food, but we really all want the exact same thing. And for example, I was in China last week, and I was in Nanjing before I went to Shanghai. So I love visiting these secondary and tertiary cities, which are like 5 million people as well in each one. Anyway, I was checking into my hotel, and they did not speak a word of English, but we communicated everything through hand gestures and smiles and eye contact, and of course, a little help from Google Translate. But
I was just going to ask you, do you
everybody,
have an app?
yeah, we're all the same. We all want the same things in life, which is just, happiness and comfort and safety, and I think pretty much everybody wants peace too, much to the media and some governments beliefs. But that is just something that you could be in. I spent a lot of earlier this year in West Africa visiting, ticking off some countries I hadn't been to, and people live differently. They live in completely different circumstances, but they could be in the darkest and most uncomfortable of slums, and they're playing soccer in the streets the same way our kids do here, and they're needing to eat 3 meals a day the same way that we do here. And so we really, there's so much more that binds us together than separates us, whatever the borders are. So,
That is amazing personal experiences that you get. And we talk about trends. I mean, in 20 years have travel. I mean, now we have Clear and we have TSA PreCheck and we have global, what's the other one? Global something.
entry.
Yes, global entry. Has that helped or changed or what's become clear to you since then?
People like to complain a lot about the travel industry and the process and how difficult it is and all the hoops you have to jump through. But to be honest, it's actually gotten a lot easier. And if you have the right tools in your arsenal, you can glide right through, the airport and be in the lounge, which you should have access to, even if you're not in business class. There are so many ways to get access to lounges. But it's ironic you asked me this question because at the moment we're going through some TSA challenges at airports, but I know that that's going to change pretty soon. So if you have the right tools in your travel tool belt, you should be able to enjoy all the perks of travel. And for me, it's about the journey as much as the destination. So I enjoy I keep my window open on the plane. I like to look and see all it's amazing. I could see Greenland and, you just see over the Atlantic Ocean. If you're flying to Europe, I just love watching and appreciating that I'm in this metal tube flying all over the world. It's just fascinating. So sometimes we have to stop and think about what are we actually doing here and appreciate it a little bit more.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because in the last 20 years, actually the last a little bit more than that, news is in the moment. And so it focuses on one element of what's going on somewhere. And yet you got a boots on the ground perspective. I mean, I remember being in Jordan, in Amman, excuse me, and I met this group. I was working internationally, and they went back to Dubai, and I came back to the United States, and they were going on and on about this terrible thing that was going on in Dubai. And he went outside and looked, and he goes, "No, not really. There's a wedding over here, there's kids playing over here, and there's this little group of rowdies." I mean, so it gives you a totally different perspective. I mean, that's got to
Totally
be.
different perspective. I love that you give that example because that's exactly the way I feel when I'm somewhere and you think that, everything's just terrible in the world. And then people are out and still living their lives because there's no other choice. You really have no other option. So, bar a few places where people have really just been kind of, are really suffering, people do try their best to continue and live happily. They don't have a choice.
Listen, here's the thing. I mean, we're all connected. I mean, that is clear because when people are dead, they don't say much. You know what I'm saying? So it's the communication and the energy is what we have here. And like you said, I was going to ask you, do you have a specific app? You said all these tools. Do you have an app for translation? Do you have an app for and like if you fell down and you couldn't get up? I mean, who could you call? I mean, it's like I think people want to know a little bit more about how you navigate all this before we get into how specialized you are with travel awards and luxury and that kind of thing, luxury options.
Well, there are a lot of great apps and travel tools, but also great websites that can help you with whether you're booking travel or whether you're looking for the best hotel deal or whether you're looking for the best lounge. There's some great apps that tell you which lounges are in which airports, which ones are open, which ones you have access to based on your credit cards, and that's always changing. The one that I used for so long called Lounge Buddy is not what it used to be. But yeah, my favorite is really just good old Google. I mean, if something breaks and I'm like, how do I fix this? I just go on Google and there's a YouTube video about how to fix it. So, you can be angry if the wheel falls off your bag, or if your flight gets canceled, or if somebody steals your luggage. But just take a deep breath, and there are ways. It's not the end of the world, and you can solve the problem somehow.
That's so true. And what about, before we get into your specialization, what about retail? I mean, uh, I just know it was difficult recently when I was in Paris, because my French is terrible, except for croissant. I think it's the only one I know. But I think you pick up some of the languages, at least saying thank you, I think in a language is always gracious. But, the money exchange, if you don't really know what the story is and you walk in, I mean, tell
Well,
us a little bit about
there are
retail.
there's three important things I just want to tell you quickly about shopping abroad. And these are mistakes that so many people make. Well, first of all, is converting your money conversion. People exchange their money here in the United States before they get to another country, which is a terrible idea. It may make you feel more comfortable to have some local currency, but you're definitely not getting the best exchange deal by doing it at the third party travel exchange at JFK Airport. You're always going to get the better deal when you're in that destination. If you insist on doing that here in the United States, and you're traveling to a country where they're using euros or something that's a bit more, or pounds or something like that, British pounds, maybe your local bank can help you. But doing it at the airport here in the United States is not a good idea. Once you land in your destination, exchanging money at the airport is also not a great idea because you're not going to get the best exchange rate. But if you must do that, because you need money for a taxi or there's no Uber or whatever. I would recommend using an ATM card at a local bank ATM at the airport. That's where you're going to get the best exchange rate. You are not going to get it at a third party exchange booth that's at the airport. Just you're going to get a better value per dollar using a bank's ATM. So that's always wise to make sure, even if you pay a bank ATM fee, because the bank ATM fee is usually a flat fee, but the conversion rate will be better. Another really important tip is when you're paying for something in another country, by credit card, very often the credit card reader, when they swipe the card or tap the card, will come back and say, "Do you want to pay in U.S. dollars or do you want to pay in the local currency?" You always, always, always pay in the local currency. You never pay in U.S. dollars. Of course, people will think U.S. dollars, that's better. It just looks more familiar. But you're going to get a better exchange rate when you pay in the local currency because of the way your credit card and the dynamic conversion fees that are charged by banks when you do it in US dollars, because they're converting it into US dollars on their end and charging you a fee, giving you a worse rate. So always pay in the local currency, even when you're using your credit card. And the last thing is if you're purchasing, most countries will give you, they have something called VAT refunds, which is basically the value added tax that's charged to, well, anywhere when you're buying something, you're usually paying the local tax. But if you don't live there, you shouldn't be held to paying the taxes on those items, because you also have to pay. Let's say you buy expensive pocketbook. Yeah, you got to pay for that tax when you come back here if it's expensive. You got to declare it if you remember to declare it. So don't forget to ask if you're buying something expensive. It doesn't matter if you're buying a bottle of water. That's not what I'm talking about. But every country has a different limit, but sometimes the limit is as low as $100. But if you're buying, let's say a $500 souvenir, a ceramic vase from China,
A
you
Hermes scarf.
or Hermes scarf, or even like I shop at Zara and the shirt's $150 or $100 or whatever. Very often that qualifies for the VAT refund. And what you need to do is show your passport. But I don't like carrying my passport around with me, so I usually just carry my driver's license. And 98% of the time, they accept that as an ID because they need to fill out a little form. And then you end up getting 10 to 15% back of what you spent at the airport when you are leaving that country. If it's the European Union, your last point of exit from the European Union. The problem is sometimes you have to wait in a line to fill out the form. They make it as onerous as possible so that you don't get your value added tax back. But if it's worth it to you, if you're buying a $100 shirt, maybe not. But if you're buying a $2,000 Gucci bag or whatever, maybe it is to get $200 back. You wait in the line. Sometimes you have to show the item to them and then you check in for your flight if you allow enough time to do that. But don't forget about the value added tax. Just ask. Every country is different, and you could save a lot of money that way.
Wow. Yes, those that alone is like worth its weight in gold
So many
because
people don't do it. So many people don't do it. And I'm like, even my own family sometimes, I'm like, please tell me you did the value added tax form. And they're like, yeah, we did the form, but we didn't want to wait in line. And I'm like, but you would have gotten $500 back. Sometimes it's in cash, sometimes they just put it back in your credit card.
wow. Speaking of credit cards, because I know you specialize in the how people can earn the most from their points and their miles, and it's pretty confusing for most of us regular people. But I know that you do that. I have a question for you though, and it's about security. Uh, Credit cards, they've come a long way for security on using a card, which is, I think American Express has done the best work on that because they make you feel real good. But you and I had a discussion off camera about, let's just say, because you have a favorite flight group like United or Delta or whatever, and you think, well, if I use their card, that'll help me out a lot. And you said not necessarily. So tell us, are credit card fees keep going up? And you said if you're smart, you can literally get that money back by some of the many perks that are involved. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you do what you do there?
Sure. So as a travel journalist, a lot of what I do is explaining to people how they can squeeze value and maximize value. Oftentimes, get more value from what you put into the into these programs in your travels. You mentioned credit card fees. I think what you meant, what you're referring to there is the annual fees on credit cards. Obviously, merchants have to pay fees when you buy something, but that's not what we were talking about. For example, there's some credit cards like the Platinum card from American Express that has a fee that's almost $800, but they just revamped that card this year or late last year actually, with some new benefits and the perks that you can get on that card. If you know and make mental note to use them is more than $2,000. You should be making money on the credit cards that you have in your wallet. I have about a dozen cards in my wallet. And yes, they all come with different annual fees, but I promise you, I make way more money back in benefits and perks than the annual fees. And if I realize that I'm not doing that with a card for one, let's say I have a Hilton card and I'm not using the Hilton card enough or getting the benefits, then I'll cancel it, or I will try to cancel it. And then when you call the company to try and cancel, very often they'll offer you a retention bonus, which is their way of saying, okay, fine, we'll waive the annual fee, or we'll give you such and such amount of points, or we'll give you this benefit if you agree to keep the card. So never just cancel a card online. Always try and call the company because there's something called retention bonuses. They want to keep your business. But what I enjoy doing through my articles and through, people are always emailing me visiting me on my website and shooting me an email with questions. I'm always very excited and happy to help answer their questions about which credit card is best for them. I live in North Carolina, so people assume that I only fly American Airlines because I live in Charlotte. But I have credit cards from all three of the major airlines, and I have many cards like the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which I love so much because when I book my travel on that card, I get 8 points per dollar spent, which is insane. It's the crazy amount. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot. If you use your Delta card, your Delta Amex card, you're only earning 2 points per dollar spent on Delta flights, and that's it. So, and 2 miles, they're in miles, which I would not say is the best currency. It sounds so complicated, but it is actually pretty simple. But sometimes you just need somebody to help you translate it. And
Well, I know
I
you've
find
interviewed
myself
top
speaking that
CEOs.
language.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you've kept up with it. So let's just say, for the most part, unless you're an avid international traveler, you probably only take one or two trips a year. You don't really understand the power that you said you could get benefits from things like Lululemon, or what was some of the other ones that you talked
Yeah,
about?
so we were briefly chatting about the Platinum card from American Express, which has the highest fee for most of the mainstream cars. That's about $800. And the biggest benefits do come from travel on that card. But there are so many other perks that you can get. Let's say you just take one trip a year. They include things like $150 a year at Lululemon. There is $100 a year at Saks Fifth Avenue. There are credits to Aura, the Aura ring, which we were chatting about, which is one of my favorites because I use it to kind of measure my sleep, and it tells me how much deep sleep I got and how much REM sleep I got, which is super important to me. You get restaurant benefits, Uber perks. I think there's like more than $100 of Uber credits per year that come with that card. Different cards come with different perks, things like DoorDash and Instacart, um, Starbucks perks. I mean, there's just a lot of things that you could be getting from your credit card. I find myself, I think that I know a lot. I mean, nobody knows everything, and I would be the first to admit that I don't. And sometimes what I'll discover at the end of the year that I forgot about a perk and I missed out on $150 in benefits. And I'm so mad at myself that I did that. And so I've sworn this year that I'm going to make a paper list of every card that I have and write down the perks that come with it and make sure that I check them off as I go throughout the year because they're usually based on the calendar year and make sure I get all the benefits from it. It's super simple once you have that list. And once I make my list, I need to put something out there so people can use.
Yes, yes, you do. And I will be happy to share it with our bajillion viewers, because this is not a one and done, because you're such a reservoir of experience. Boots on the ground is so much different than what we read or hear, because there's not everything on the internet's necessarily true.
It's
I've
true.
heard.
I'd say a
Yeah.
lot on the internet is not true, but You mentioned just really fast, one of the things that, because sometimes I'll get emails from readers saying, but I only take one trip a year, but I want my one trip a year to matter. It could be maybe the mom or the dad, or whoever's responsible for planning the trip for the family. And they're like, we want to use our points, but we don't travel enough to earn a lot of points. And I say, well, I'm pretty sure that you go to the grocery store and there are cards that will give you 3 to 5 miles or points per dollar spent on your groceries. I mean, that's a lot. If you have a family of you've got 2 or 3 kids, I'm sure you're spending a lot of money on groceries. There's cards that will give you bonuses on dining out. These are all things you do every day, and you want to make sure you're earning the maximum number of miles and points you can. So, as I told you, I have about 10 to 12 cards in my wallet. I know that I want to use XYZ card at the gas station because I earn 5 miles per dollar on that one. If I pull out the wrong one, I'll just get 1 mile per dollar spent. How stupid is that? When I could be spending the same amount of money, but getting 5 times the perks. At a grocery store, I know to use this card. When I'm traveling, when I'm checking into a hotel, I know to use this card. And all you have to do is put a little thing in a black marker on the back that helps you understand hotel or restaurant. So you remember when you're going through your wallet, okay, which one do I need to use? Oh, this one. And so,
We
even to things
literally,
online
we,
advertising. I know many of your viewers might be involved in maybe they have online advertising for their, real estate business or for, an insurance business or whatever it is that they do. You can be earning miles and points for in the multiples per dollar spent. Even for my website bill that I pay for every year, I earn like 10 points per dollar based on that because spending for online advertising or things like that, shipping telephone company, my mobile phone bill, I earn 3 points per dollar. And I bet most of your people that are watching are only earning 1 point per dollar, if anything. Please don't tell me you're paying by check.
oh,
You don't earn anything
you
with that.
it, the only person that accepted the check was my 85-year-old foot doctor. He's the only one that wanted a check. But yeah, it's so much easier. Well, credit card fees can be offset. You're an expert at this. I know that you can be available for consulting, obviously, because it's a great investment because you know so much about this. And also uh, with where you're traveling. I think honestly, Ramsey, you could be like our go-to for oh I'm going to the Maldives. Oh, I'm going to where are you going next, by the way?
Well, I'm going to Anguilla and then to Prague and then to the Maldives. And the Maldives are one of the most common questions I get from people is we want to go and stay in an overwater villa. Where should we go? I'm sure you've seen those pictures of like overwater, where
Oh yeah.
stilts in the water. And, the most common places for that are French Polynesia, the Maldives, and now there are some in the Caribbean, among other places. The Maldives are the most incredible place. During COVID, I ended up going, I've been there probably a dozen times, but half of them were during the pandemic because the Maldives was the perfect place to go because everything's outside and you're distanced from everyone and they were open without, having all these restrictions. And so it's such a beautiful place, and you can use your miles and points there. It's just very, very expensive. So that's why miles and points can help you a lot in
Well,
that.
you
In,
mentioned that when we were talking off camera about, that you say I'm going to use points and it's 500 million points, but it's really only 40,000 if you know what you're doing. So I think people need you, is what I'm
yeah.
saying.
Well, there's some great websites out there that will translate that for you. So you say, I live in Charlotte, but I'm going to the Maldives. And so you put in from Charlotte to Maldives, and these are my dates. And then it will tell you, it will go through like all the loyalty programs and tell you on your dates, these are the prices by all these different airlines because some people would just go to delta.com and give up after their first try because there's going to be nothing there. You have to use one of these like aggregators that goes through. So oftentimes you have to pay for them. But I pay for one, it's like $100 a year. And but if you email me, I'll be happy to check, use my service and check it for you. But and then you realize that, oh, the program you were going to use was going to charge you 500,000 miles. But if you use this other program, it'll cost you 80,000. And hey, the credit card points that you have will transfer to that program for free. So all you have to do is go on there and do that. And so that is the kind of thing when you realize, oh, it's not just a vertical line, but sometimes there's, things branch off over here and then you can benefit from that, or it goes this way and you can benefit from that. So they all connect, and I make it that's my job is to understand how they all interconnect and then share that with readers.
Well, it's what you said. My focus is helping readers to improve their travel experience with tips, tricks, and advice. And I hope no matter what it costs, you need to call or contact Ramsey Qubein because somebody who's gone through 400,000 miles kind of must have a plan, must know a lot. So what's your website, Ramsey?
My website is ramseyq.com, RAM as in Mary, SEYQ.com. And on there, you can find out how to contact me or follow my stories. I have a column with Forbes.com where you can just click follow and then you'll get an email with whenever I write about different stories. I have one coming up in a few days about robots in hotels and how hotels are using robots and to deliver things to your room, to check you in, which luxury
Oh,
brands say that they will never use robots and which ones are totally leading into the space. Just kind of like fun stories like that. I think I was mentioning to you, I wrote a story about how Americans are investing in greater numbers in real estate in Southern Europe, most importantly in Southern Portugal. That was because of a golden visa program that has since changed in the past year or two. But many people are continuing to invest there because it's great value. They make it their vacation home. They buy a spot there. They put it into the rental pool, and they're making money on it when they're not living there. And that's one of many places I see so many Americans moving. Guatemala, Costa Rica, especially when they retire, they're finding great value to live in these places where it costs you a fraction of the cost of living here, but they're not giving up their home here, but they're just buying a second home somewhere else.
how
So
amazing. So can you
following
see,
these
can you
trends.
see how much we need this man? Your expertise is amazing. You're generous and kind to share. And an email address would be,
My email is Ramsey, Ramsey, at ramseyq.com. That's also on my website. I don't have one of those forms. It's just my email listed there. You can shoot me an
can I
email.
tell you about those forms? Most people don't ever respond to those forms.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
better just to go direct. Well, will you join us again? I think we need to do a whole program on getting some more tips on these credit cards and how to use them to maximize. Because what I heard from you is we are leaving way too much money on the table because we don't know they're there, don't know how to use them, aren't aware, and don't know which ones would work. And I think that to easily and happily give you money to help people navigate that. So, as a consultant, as a speaker, as an interviewer, and as a journalist, we are so appreciative of you. Ramsey Qubein, uh, one last tip to tell us how we could live life better, live life large.
So I am responsible for booking all of my family travel. And so my extended family, there's 18 of us and we travel a lot here in the US and overseas. And I book our trips and oftentimes I'll use miles for our trips. I would like to remind everyone watching and listening and then all of your friends and family that the price of your ticket, whether in miles or in cash, changes. And even after you purchase it, I bet you it will go down. It might go up. Oftentimes it goes up, but many times it goes down. And with a mileage ticket, for example, all you have to do is cancel and rebook it, and you get the difference in miles. We went skiing in Colorado last month. I booked 18 people. It
Wow.
originally had cost us about 1 million miles to get everybody there. I canceled and rebooked so many times, I got it down to about 600,000. I basically got half the miles back by paying attention and by setting alerts with different websites that allow you to do that and getting a lot of miles back. There's a lot that's being left on the table. That's the bottom line.
Oh, well, definitely. So we want a Ramsey in our life. So go to Ramsey Q, uh, learn about this. You're going to join us again if I have to find you no matter where. I don't know that I can go to Anguilla, but whatever. But you're gracious to share your time and your expertise here at realtytimesnews.com. Thank you so much for joining us and join us again soon.
I hope so. Thank you so much, Terry.